This is Dean Thomas, and you're watching Second Act Podcast.
Welcome to Second Act Podcast. I'm joined always by Michael Stone. I am Justin Sims, and today we have a very, very, very special guest. We have UFC fighter Charles Rosa. And not only is he a professional badass, but he's also an incredible human being. We're going to start this interview today with 2 quick videos on behalf of Charles Rosa, so I hope you enjoy them. Check it out.
Ahead on UFC Ultimate Insider. Hey everyone, good to have you with us for another edition of UFC Ultimate Insider, sponsored by Harley-Davidson. I'm Megan O'Leary. Born into a large Italian family on the outskirts of Boston, UFC Featherweight Charles Rosa was hardwired to fight. His grandfather, a Navy boxing champion. His uncle, a well-known local amateur champ. And his father also boxed. However, when the fighter now known as Boston Strong became a teenager, both he and his family would be tested in ways they could never imagine.
I grew up in Peabody, Massachusetts. Then I went to Peabody High School. Me and my brothers, this is where we grew up, so just pretty much riding our bikes around, getting in trouble. Every time I ride past something in the city, it brings back a little bit of a memory of something I did. Peabody kids all have good hearts, and we all have respect for people, but it's kind of just one of those things from growing up in this area. We're all a little bit of troublemakers.
Yeah. I used to play hockey when I was your age, so documentary.
Every summer we'd come to my beach house here in Seabrook, New Hampshire. So I kind of had 2 homes. My brothers Dominic and Vincent, they were my 2 role models ever since I can remember, since being little kids. They always taught me all the life lessons. If they told me to do something, I did.
Dominic and Vincent were really good boys. Of course, they're the oldest, and having the younger kids around, they were good role models too in the beginning. But as they got into middle school, they started smoking weed, and they started with alcohol a little bit here and there.
We used to fight a lot about, I tell you not having the drugs or alcohol or anything in the house. You say, Papa, don't worry, I'll never try nothing else. That stuff is for losers. And as time went on, they got into bigger things, and eventually I got a call on a Saturday night from the Salem Hospital and told me that my son was unresponsive.
A year later, we lost Dom.
Dominic was in rehab, but he had just lost his younger brother, and I think that he was living with some guilt that he didn't always set a good example, and he thinks it probably should have been him.
After I lost my 2 older brothers, I was struggling a lot with substance abuse and kind of just self-medicating myself.
You'd hear a lot of people, well, what the hell's wrong with Charles? He just lost his brothers and he's doing the same thing. A lot of people turned their backs on him when he started doing the wrong thing, but he didn't know how to handle it. He didn't know how to process it.
They kind of really took it hard on me. I think they wanted to teach me a lesson. I was only 17 years old, but they made an exception for me, and I went to this place called Bridgewater. It was a state facility. That was really the moment that changed my life. So I lost my 2 older brothers, and they cremated them. They spread their ashes in the ocean. So something that me and my dad do is kind of a ritual tradition. We go jump in the water, whenever I come up. This is special. This is everything that makes me a fighter. It makes me who I am. Every day going in the water and to visit my brothers by jumping in with them. This is special for me. My dad moved up here with me, and I was able to go to Winnicott High School and finish out and get my high school degree. After college, I really got kind of caught up in a lot of stuff, and once I was done with college, I didn't really have any real goals or anything to kind of set me forward with my life. So I really got really bad into drugs and into opiate abuse and things like that, and really my life started going downward and downward. That was specifically the time that I said, I'm unhappy with my life and I have to make a change. I did it myself. It was about the 5th or 6th treatment center I went to. It was the first time I did it on my own. They drove me to Florida, and that's where I live now. The way I got into mixed martial arts is I was in therapy groups and stuff like that. So every day we'd have 2 or 3 therapy groups. One of the things in the back of my head, I said, maybe I'll try to find a boxing gym. She said, okay, so that'll be your directive for the day. Go try to find a gym or something like that. I drove past this gym and I thought it was a boxing gym. And sure enough, it was American Top Team, Boca Raton, run by Charles McCarthy. Cole Miller was one of the teachers there as well. And I didn't know much about the UFC. I watched Pride and all this stuff, but I had that day that I rode past the gym. I went in and I took my first class, and from that day I fell in love with it. The release I get from fighting is, I think it compensates for all that feeling of the drugs and everything. I mean, the feeling of winning a fight is that times 10. It's the most special feeling, and the most rewardful feeling, knowing all the hard work you put in, everything you did pays off. No matter how bad your life gets, you can always make something of yourself and become something, because I'm living proof of it.
Wow. All right, so the next video is a Chucky's Fight video, and this is the organization that Charles Rosa and his father created in honor of his two brothers. So let's see this.
Tonight on Chronicle. The water's right around 38 right now, and feels pretty good. It's good for me. He dives into the ocean every day just to make a point.
Down here at the bay in Hampton, it said it's 15 degrees, and I think it's, I don't know, it says it's -2 or something out. It's very snowy.
Chucky's Fight, making waves in the war against drug abuse. In my own small, quiet way, I feel good that I am making a difference. Sometimes I visualize that it's sunny out and it's nice out, and I walk down and I bless myself and I go in. It mentally does me a world of good. The coldest it was so far this year was, I think, 3 degrees, and the wind chill was -17.
This is a daily routine for Seabrook resident Chucky Rosa.
The water's right around 38 right now, and feels pretty good. It's good for me.
Each morning, he hops in the car for a short ride to the beach.
He'll wait.
No matter what the weather, he comes here to jump in the water, recording the moment as a sort of inspiration.
Hey, good morning. This is Chucky Rosa reporting from Seabrook Beach. It's March 24th. The temperature is 40 degrees, the wind chill is 31, and the water temperature is 38.
If you're wondering why anyone would do this, we did too. Chucky Rosa is a tough-as-nails type of guy with a heart of gold. Known for his jiu-jitsu skills and good Italian cooking, his chili is award-winning. In many ways, the father of 6 is like many dads, but he also has a tragedy that haunts him.
They had a heart as big as this room. They'd do anything for anybody. They're tough kids, you know, but not bullies. They were really good boys.
Chucky's sons, Vincent and Dominic Rosa, were active kids in the community with a struggle that's all too common. As teens, they both started a long battle with drug addiction.
They promised me that they would never try anything else, and unfortunately, it progressed to pills, and my son Dominic died of a overdose his third and final time when he was 21, and Vincent died of he was a fentanyl patch. It's a type of a morphine.
About a year apart, both Vincent and Dominic died from accidental overdoses. Their ashes were later scattered in the ocean near the family home. Sometimes in freezing cold weather, Chucky would jump in just to be closer to them. In fact, his regular swims started to attract attention.
Some other locals said, you know, that's pretty amazing. You should do something with it. And I said, like, what? And
the family wanted others to know their story, so the dangers of drugs wouldn't cause more family tragedies.
We knew that he goes in the water every day. You know, that was one thing. We said, what do you do? He goes in the water every day. Nobody does that. That's different. So that'll get people's attention, and we can film it.
Hey, good morning. This is Chucky Rosa. I'm down here at the Hampton Bay.
And that is exactly what they did.
Hey, good morning. This is Chucky Rosa. It's December 19th. Hey, good morning. This is Chucky Rosa. It's Sunday, December 20th. Down here at the Bay in Hampton. It says it's 15 degrees, and I think it's, I don't know.
That's, oh man.
It's very snowy.
Rain or shine or even in
intense,
snow,
man.
starting in January 2009, Chucky started jumping in the ocean every single
It's
day.
dedication, man.
Fucking snow all over the beach.
Imagine how cold the water is.
No.
It's 11 degrees and it's -4 chill factor.
Bravely rolls her camera.
It's very windy and it's a cold, icy wind.
The clips are loaded onto a website they call Chucky's Fight for the world to see. Chucky's Fight is a program to educate kids and troubled teens about the dangers of drugs and alcohol, a battle Chucky knows all too well.
Managed to stay clean and sober yesterday. Hope everybody out there that's trying is doing the same.
To help stop the blight of drug abuse, Chucky started raising money with his year-round swims and teaching kids about his story. The reaction was swift. Kids of all ages have written him, saying his story kept them off drugs.
It makes me keep on keeping on, you know, to do the right thing. Because it is a struggle some days, you know, it's a struggle.
That struggle has paid off. Chucky's Fight started reaching more people. Soon youth groups and schools were inviting Chucky to speak.
I have a special group of people with me here today.
Corporate sponsors joined in the ocean jumps to help raise money. Chucky always welcomes people to join him on his daily dunks, but often he is alone with the memories of his sons, Vincent and Dominic.
There is days when it's crazy out there. The wind's going 40 miles an hour and it's below zero. And Mary she'll look at me and she say, "You're going?" And I go, it's almost like I have to, you know.
You may notice while I'm bundled up and freezing just feet away, Chucky feels pretty good after his ocean dip.
Now it's the hotel.
Nice, it's not bad out. No good bumps. Okay, it's good. It's all good.
In fact, this dad seems to have boundless energy for his cause. Our camera guy, Chris, could barely catch him on the beach. When he's not swimming, Chucky also teaches self-defense classes, which, as he showed me, anyone can do.
I might grab like this.
But his most important hobby is creating a legacy for his two sons, hoping these two words will help those struggling with drug abuse win their own fight.
In my own small, quiet way, I feel good that I am making a difference.
You know, some people might think he's intimidating, but he's really sincere, and this is important to him. I mean, it's just something he really wants to get across to people.
The future never gets any brighter when you burn the candle at both ends. So take some time for yourselves and your loved ones, and everything will be there when you get back. Thanks for joining me, and have a good day.
She's still doing that?
Yeah. We'll be right back. Second Act Podcast with UFC fighter Charles Rosa. Welcome to Second Act Podcast. My name is Justin Sims. I'm always joined alongside my co-host Michael Stone. Today, super special guest. A human weapon, but he also happens to be possibly, and don't hit me for this, a more impressive human being than a fighter. That's my experience with the one and the only UFC fighter, survivor, legend in the making, Charles Rosa.
Hey man, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So let's we're not gonna do anything out of the ordinary from what we do with normal guests. We're gonna talk about you. So where are you from? Let's start at the beginning.
I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Exact lake is Peabody. It's like 15 minutes north of Boston, Peabody, Massachusetts. So that's where I was born, raised. I lived there till I was 18 years old. I always had a summer beach house up in New Hampshire, up in Seabrook Beach, New Hampshire. So we'd take the summers up there with the family and stuff like that when I was a kid. So, I eventually used my, I graduated my senior year from there because of troubles in my past and stuff like that. So luckily I had that to be able to graduate high school. But
what kind of troubles you mean? You were just like a normal kid, just like liking?
Well, the way I actually basically got in trouble from school is, I was actually skipping out on high school to go to a Patriots parade when they won the Super Bowl. We won a lot of Super Bowls, so got me in trouble. But when the Patriots won the Super Bowl, I skipped out that day, and unfortunately, I got in the wrong car. And the kid got pulled over, and everything got reported. They found stuff in the car and got me in a little bit of trouble. Got me expelled from my high school in Peabody, which is basically Boston. So luckily we had another beach house up in New Hampshire, and I moved up there with my dad. So he basically had to leave the family, at the house in Boston and move up to New Hampshire just so I could graduate high school. So I always had a good, strong, supportive family and stuff like that. But it just, some of the things that happened through my life, which I'm sure we'll get into, is kind of what pretty much, the reason all this stuff happened. So,
Yeah. So your dad, wow, that's a sacrifice. Your dad relocates so that his son can go to another school because you made a bad choice.
Yeah.
And then, so you had experienced consequence from a bad choice early on.
Early, yeah. That's one thing with me is I was held, I was always held accountable for my actions from a very young age. My dad was like military like that, so I got in trouble at school or something like that. I came home like it wasn't like it is these days. You know what I'm saying?
I would not want to come home to your dad.
My dad's a beast dude, so I'm sure you've seen him. So it's kind of
we just watched the videos and I peed a little bit. When your dad's hitting that thing, I'm like, whoa.
He always had to call him sir, always had respect, and that was his main thing. 3 things that were important growing up in my household. I come from a family. I had 2 older brothers that passed away, and my older brothers, Dominic and Vincent. I have 2 younger brothers, twin brothers. They're twins. They're 22 years old, just graduated college. Lucas and Francis, and my sister Teresa, who's 30 years old. She just turned 30, and she lives in Vermont. And coming from this big family, the one thing that was always very taught, by my dad is to have respect for people and stuff like that. I was always taught respect and to try your best. So those are things that were instilled with me at a young age. And if I didn't have any of those 2 things, like, if I came home, my report card was all C's and D's, but it said I was trying hard, there was no problem, But if I came home and it was like, a report card and it's like, oh, not trying or something like that.
He's not applying himself.
Yeah, exactly. He's just not trying. There's no effort. Then there's an issue. Even if it was like a B or something, but lack of effort, like it'd be an issue. And it was always like that. And same with sports. Whenever I played sports, as long as I was trying, that was the important thing, and that was what I was instilled at as a young age. And that's just kind of like how my dad is as a person, and I think he raised me strong, and I think that's one of the reasons I'm able to do what I do is, be able to fight in the UFC is I have that discipline, and I never give up. And you can see in my fights, I have 3 fight of the night bonuses fighting in the UFC, so I think that helped me get that too.
Yeah, you can't teach heart.
Yeah.
And you've got that. I think that's something that you're born with or not born with.
Yeah.
But your dad, was ahead of the curve a little bit. I just read a study recently that said that you're not supposed to tell children good job.
Yeah.
You're supposed to tell them you're a hard worker.
Yep.
You're a hard worker. You're a hard worker, so that when they encounter a problem later, they don't go, oh, I didn't do a good job, I can't figure it out. They think, I'm a hard worker, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what your dad was doing. He was saying it's all about effort. As long as you try, do your best and respect people, that's good.
Yeah. So
I bet you guys didn't get trophies for like 7th place. And what would your dad say about giving kids 7th place trophies?
If he tried.
If he tried, that's what it's all about. They actually there's something called, I think it's a sixth man award. You know what I'm saying? It's like the guy that comes off the bench in the NBA. They have that award too. So it was always like that thing. Like as long as I'm trying. But luckily I was fortunate. I was always good at sports. Because I worked so hard and I just was so competitive, That's another thing. I don't know if it was something that I was taught at a young age or born with, but that competitiveness, I never wanted to be, the guy in the back, So
if you and I played chess right now, you're going to want to destroy me.
I don't know. That's a mental game. But if we're running a sprint or a race, then you better believe. I remember the first time I came down here when I was in a treatment center. They were like, hey, there's a 5K. It's a charity 5K. And we're gonna go, run it, raise some money and stuff. And I'm like, I show up and I'm like, I'm ready, I'm gonna win this thing, No one realized this is how they go. I took off, and there was some guys like that could run, you know what I'm saying? Like some real sprinters that were like, it was a big event too. And I remember from the second that race started to the end, because I wasn't the fastest one, I sprinted as fast as I could.
The whole thing.
Sprinted the entire thing. And there was one guy that was like a minute ahead of me, but I was sprinting past people, and I just remember like, there's no possible way if I did that race again that I would get a better time, because I just went as hard as I could the entire time. And that's kind of just how I've always been. I'm very competitive. I'm gonna try my hardest, and I'm never gonna give up.
So that's been a constant in your life.
Yeah.
It seems like the fight of the nights and stuff.
Yeah. And that's why kind of tying all this stuff together, this conversation, is why I had such a difficult time with struggling with drug addiction and stuff like that, is because, you know, I never wanted to give up. So it was really difficult when they were like, you know, oh, you have to go to this meeting, you have to surrender, you have to, you know, give your power over to somebody else, you have to believe in all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna fight this thing. I'm gonna fight this thing to the end. Like, nothing's gonna beat me. Nothing's gonna beat me. But after seeing it beat my two older brothers, who are the two toughest kids that I know, like my two older brothers, Dominic and Vincent, or I would say the two toughest, strongest, like mentally strong, physically strong, like, you know, tough city kids that I ever met.
You'll ever come across.
Yeah, ever come across. And it killed both of them. You know, both my brothers, Dominic and Vincent, overdosed and passed away when I was 16, and then the consecutive year when I was 17. So I was a sophomore in high school, and then a junior, senior in high school when I lost my other brother, Dominic, Vincent Dominic. And man, like, you know, that was like kind of like in the, you know, the beginning to the middle of my drug addiction. But after that, I think I just kind of used all the pain from that, and I self-medicated, so it made it way worse. But I already started when that kind of happened, because I was in the midst of it, and it continuously got worse.
But they were your heroes, your two brothers.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you said in the video, like anything they told you to do, you would have done.
I did it.
Jump off a bridge.
They told me that.
You were.
That's it. They told me to do it. I did it, and I had respect for them. Like, we used to do a lot of like troublesome things, you know, like, you know, kids ride around, like you hear both kids playing ding dong dish. Like, we were like, I mean, I don't even want to say what we did, because I know, I guess this is a judge-free zone, but like we did some really crazy shit, like driving around my brother's car. We used to run into this, we used to, like, you know, I don't even know, this crazy stuff.
Just
like,
insane,
like just stuff that
living life like
trouble, living life, yeah,
like an extreme sport.
Yeah, and on top of it, you know, there's like drug deals and selling going on, so you tie all this stuff in together, and it makes just for madness, you know.
A dangerous lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think I was addicted to danger at a time, and like I liked like not getting caught, and I liked like getting away with stuff. I was addicted to that as much. But my best friend, who's like my brother, died the same way.
Oh yeah.
And then my father died 3 months after that.
Yeah.
And I too spiraled down.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to. I was addicted to escaping reality.
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with the loss, so I numbed myself.
Yeah.
Much like you did.
Any way you could. Yeah. And that's kind of how it started for me. Is I think, like, I don't make any excuses for why, you know, I did drugs or got bad or any of these type of things, but I definitely know, you know, going back to what you said in the beginning, I learned consequences from my actions at a young age. You know, when I was 17 years old, after my brother Dominic passed away, I remember they searched me at school, and they found a little piece of like Suboxone, which isn't even like, because I would spit it out so I could use drugs. Like, Suboxone is basically a maintenance drug, so you can't use harder drugs like Oxycontin, Percocet, and heroin and stuff like that. And this is basically an opiate blocker, and I would take it every morning, which it's an opiate blocker. I was supposed to take it every morning, but I would spit it out and put it in my pocket. So when they searched me at school, I had it in my pocket, and I don't even know why I had it in my pocket. I just must have put it there. But when they searched me, they found it. I tried to jock it, but the police came. They made me shake out my pants and stuff like that. And they, what's this? I'm like, it's a Tic Tac. And I swear to God, it was the funniest thing, because you think that's the most ridiculous thing you could say. The principal was like, oh, it's Tic Tac. It's a little orange. He bought it, and the police officer was like, the fucking Tic Tac.
Shut up!
Like, I Tic Tac. Oh, like, you would think we're stupid, kid? And I'm like, shoot. They're like, what is it? Because they couldn't tell, because it was like I had it in my mouth and spit it out. But anyways, that's what eventually kind of got me, you know, suspended, and they sent me to a place called Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Anybody from New England knows Bridgewater. It's a place where it's something called Section 35, where they can section you, which means that they can put you into basically jail. They basically put you in 30 days in jail without even being committed
with
of a
no
crime.
charge.
It's a civil commitment, so it's no charge on your record, but it's a civil commitment, and you go in jail with people that are criminals that are also there. So, and I was 17 years old, so you say, well, how did he go to an adult jail when you're 17? Well, luckily in my case, after my two brothers passed away, and my dad goes to the judge, they took my case as a special case, and the judge can do whatever he wants. He said, hey, listen, this kid obviously is troubled. We're going to teach you a lesson. You know, after what happened to your brothers, we don't want that to happen to you. 30 days Bridgewater. I was like, what's that? You know, what's 30 days Bridgewater? Like, my like, you know, lawyer that they had set up for me was like, you're basically going to jail for 30 days. And I'm like, dude, what can we do to get out of this? He's like, dude, there's not much.
The judge just
like,
said.
The lawyer, I don't know how the lawyer, if he's working with me or against me, because I don't know him. He was appointed by like the courts, but like I could tell, like he was like, dude, you're screwed, you know.
Yeah,
you're going, dude. He's like, there's nothing I can do to help you. And
Face
I'm like,
the
okay.
music.
So I faced the music, man, and at a very young age, 17, they took me out of high school and they put me into basically jail with adults, and that was tough
without
times.
a jury, without
a charge.
Without a charge, yeah.
with no charge.
I never heard of anything like that.
It's called Section 35. They can do it with other people who are suicidal, but I wasn't suicidal. That's not why it happened. They did it.
He was just such a high risk because they thought he's going to be the third brother to die.
Yeah, so, and I've never had it, so I sat there, and that was quite an experience, man, going to jail, you know, at 17 years old, and I wasn't I'm not like I am now. I wasn't built like I was like 110 pounds soaking wet, like I was
Target.
I was barely, you know, I was barely mature yet. I didn't even have one facial hair in my face yet. I was a baby, you know. So I remember the first day I went in there, dude, like kids were already trying to pick on me. I got multiple. The first day I was let out to play basketball, I was like, oh, I can play basketball. Try to, like, you know. So I remember it was in jail. It's a lot of stuff goes on, racism, there's things like that. Yep. I was like playing. I went to play ball and like, yo, don't be playing with the black and Spanish kids. The white kids told me. I was like, dude, I don't care. I'm like,
it's a game.
I'm gonna do what I want. It's a game. So I went and I played with them. They're like, watch what happens. Sure enough, like 5-10 minutes into the game, you know, I have good defense. I'm not gonna say I'm a great basketball player, but I know how to play defense.
But you stick on somebody.
I stick on the kid. Yeah. He wasn't scoring. He was like super, you know, trying.
He's fouling me. He's fouling me.
No, they don't call fouls in jail ball, so that's why I was even better, because you know I'm pretty.
No, I can foul you.
So now I'm like, I'm on him, and he kept trying to score, and I just kept stopping him, and then he kept like getting in my face like, yo, fuck you, white boy, like, and just talking, and I'm just, you know, shining out, and then finally he comes down, I steal the ball. I score, he gets the ball, and next time he checks the ball, he just whips it off my face, like, just throws the basketball right off my face.
Wow.
Boom, like, completely intentional. So then I don't even remember, I just snapped and went after him. And I remember all the it's like almost something from a movie, all the sirens in the jail, like in the court, you can imagine, like the big metal fence around, all the red lights start going off. And I'm like, oh no, like, all the cops all the COs, they call them, start running out, and I just look around, and everyone hit the floor, and I was like, oh my god, like, what did I do? You know what I'm saying? Like, damn. And I actually, I mean, just so you know, for sake of the story, like, I got the better of this kid for sure. I remember having him by his throat, and I was just ripping shots on him, and I remember my knuckles were all bloody. So what they did is they lined us all up in a line, and they had us put out our knuckles and check our knuckles, and that's how I got caught. They saw that I had two basically bloody knuckles. Say, hey, you.
Like he was in the fight.
You're in the fight, and they threw me in the hole. So this was probably the first time in my life that the most I ever had to pay any type of action for what I did in my life. Is I got thrown in the hole in jail at 17 years old, and I don't know if anyone's ever, you know, people listening, whatever, that have been in a situation like that, but it's pretty scary, you know, especially at an age like that, because there's nothing in the room. It's an empty room, you know. There's basically just a pot to piss and that's it, and there's no food or nothing. So I'm like, you know, I have clothes on. It was just like the clothes that they give you, the state issued clothing. And I remember saying this guy kept walking by, like every hour I would see this guy walk by, and I go into the little window and I'd say, hey, whoa, I'm hungry. I just make something up to see I'm hungry, like, what's up? Am I gonna eat? Like, just look at me and walk by.
No answer.
And that was like, it must have been 12 to 16 hours of that. And and I just didn't know. Then I didn't know what time it was. So like 16, 20 hours went by. I'm like, dude,
no perception of time.
I have no idea if I'm gonna be in here for another hour or if I'm gonna be in here for 30 days. I have no idea. No one told me. No one's told you. Just threw me in here. Didn't tell me anything. Like, I was like starting to freak out pretty bad. Then there must have been a shift change, and this older, big, like, you know, kind of older looking guy, like something that kind of looked like, you know, one of my friend's dads or something. It was a shift change, you know. And this dude walks by, and I remember I ran up and, hey, I'm hungry. He looked in, and then he looked away and did the same thing the other guy did and started walking. I was like, here we go again. And then I remember him just kind of doing like a double, like he looked in, he walked, and then he looked back in, he's like, what the hell? He goes, hey kid, he goes, how old are you? I go, 17. He goes, are you even old enough to be in here? My kids are older than you. I go, I don't know, could you find out for me? And I was like, I made him laugh. And when I made him laugh, we started talking. And I got his attention, and he was really cool, and he actually opened the door. He let me come out. He's like, yo, so tell me the story. He's like, I heard you're that kid that tuned up the Spanish kid in the ball today. I'm like, yeah, dude, what was I supposed to do? I was defending myself. It's my first day here. Like, I always see the movies and the stories, the kids getting picked on in jail, and if I didn't stand up for myself, like,
they would all mess with me every day.
He's like, oh, no, man, you're good. He goes, I'm going to let you out of here. I'm going to let you back in the population, but you got to just promise that you're not going to start any more shit. And if someone starts a fight with you, you know, just try to just walk away from it. Don't be throwing punches and stuff like that. You can do that verbally without having he's a nice guy, you know, really. This guy, like, in my life, I always remember. And
he came when you needed him.
I got back, and I just remember, like, that was just my first real another consequence of my things. I'm down thrown in jail. I'm in the hole within the first 3 days of being there, like, and now I'm starting to get, you know, sick because I don't have any drugs and stuff like that. So it's really I could say those are the worst 30 days of my life, easily. Like, I've been to treatment centers and stuff like that, but the worst 30 days of my life, counting the days every day, you mark it off the calendar. And 30 days might, to somebody, like, even listening, oh, that's nothing, you can anyway do that, but you get to the point where if there's any situation that you could possibly leave, like if someone had an escape plan, even on the 29th day I would have done it, even though the consequences could have been 5 more years in jail. That's how, like,
desperate of a situation,
how bad it is.
Well, yeah, because you were a 17-year-old kid in that situation that just lost his 2 heroes. I mean, you were just probably looking up at some point and going, God, if I believe in you, can you give me a break?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
But, yeah, and I remember another funny thing, just like in jail, is that when the mail would come, like, they would be like, you know, they'd be like, you know, McDonald, it goes in alphabetical order, and they would have one piece of mail for someone, they call someone's name to be no mail, and it's like, Rosa. I must have had, like, 50 pieces of mail. Like, I had so much mail that inmates would ask me to read my mail. Like, I swear to God, like, they were, like, so jealous, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Now I got another target.
I have, like, every aunt and uncle that I know, you know, every person I know, because I was, you know, I was still, like, a good kid, like, before that and stuff.
Yeah, you were just
tons
lost.
of letters, but it's just, but you could just imagine, like, and there was even more situations where kids would try to punk me and stuff like that, like, you know, steal my food and stuff like that, and, you know, I learned, you know, I just had to learn how to fend for myself, and that's something that my brothers taught me at a young age. Never let anybody take something from you or punk you, and I learned it, and that's why, like, it was even harder, because it's so hard, like, that voice in my head when someone, like, guy reaches over, he takes the bread off my plate, it's like, I hear my brother's voices, like, oh, I don't let him do that, and that's kind of the same thing, same mentality when I fight, like, when I'm walking in the back, you know, warming up, you know, people say, you know, that moment is a terrifying moment, you know, when you know that you're going to go in front of 30,000 people, you know, and, you know, fight, you know, get locked in the cage with another person that's dangerous.
That's
you know what I'm
trying to
saying?
hurt you.
Like, it's trying to really hurt you, and I love it. It's what I chose to do. But in the same breath, like, if anyone tells you, oh, it's not a scary or high anxiety situation, they're liars. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody that's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go in there. It's gonna be fun. Like, it's real. That's what you know when you're, you know, you look in the mirror that you're a man and this is what you want to do. But one thing that always made that so much easier for me and made it so much easiar to fight is just hearing my brother's voices telling me, you know, to not let someone take something from you and stuff like that. And that's kind of what always moved me, it always inspired me as a kid, and through my fighting and through sports, and especially fighting in the UFC makes it easier for me.
You got like 2 angels walking.
Yeah, I got one on each shoulder, like, when I walk
and these are the 2 toughest, like you said, rough inner city kids, man, that are walking with you.
Yeah, that's it. And
that empowers you, man.
It does, and that's what the reason I think that the way I fight and stuff like that, and it just makes it that much more special, you know. So.
Well, you are must-watch TV when you do fight. Let's go from, so you get out of this 30-day hell.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? I mean, I'm sure your dad was like on your ass.
Yeah. So that's when pretty much they had a good watchful eye over me. That's when I got expelled from my school in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I moved up with him to New Hampshire.
To the beach house.
Seabrook, New Hampshire, yeah, the beach house. And it was just me and my dad there. And man, he had an eye over me. And I remember how much work we had to do to get into that school. We had so much, like, we had to go to all these meetings and stuff like that, but I finally got in, and I was 17 years old, and I was in a new high school, and I knew this was my second chance. And I mean, I don't know how much time I got for stories, but like I said, the first day of school, friggin' kid, you know, basically, alright, same thing, kid tries to take my lunch money. I'm like, dude, I just got home from prison, like, you
here we are,
lunch money. And it just, you know, I got in basically a fight the first day of school, and luckily I knew right away not to fight in the school, you know, because I'm like, I'm not, dude, I'm smart enough, like,
meet me outside.
Like, I'm like, meet me outside after school, we'll meet, and like, meet me at the skateboard park. So, you know, the whole day I went through, I went there, the whole school was there. Friggin' huge fight with this kid, his name was Shaput. I actually told the story on MMA Junkie once, so it's a long story, but it's pretty cool. I went to the skateboard park, friggin' whole school's there, he's jumping up and down, big kid, 6'2",
talking all kinds
stuff.
of shit.
Yeah, and I knew we were fighting because I wasn't there for, you know, to talk to him. The whole school was there, he had his shirt off already. Just went right at him, bang, just started fighting him, and I ended up knocking him out, and the second he hits the ground, I hear the ambulance sirens, like the police, you know, not the ambulance, but the police, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. But somehow I was able to get out of there and never got in trouble for it. Next day in school, I remember going into the classroom, and the teacher, his name was Mr. Peabody, I remember, he's like, and the craziest thing is that kid Shaput was in my class. He goes, hey, what happened to your eye? And luckily the kid didn't tell him. He goes, oh, nothing, just from football, you know. And I was in the class like, holy shit, that was close, you know, and that was it. And luckily that was one situation where like it was, should have suffered consequences, or I could have, but it was like one of those things I just squeaked by, and it's ended up, you know, saving my life because I got through college, I got through high school, I graduated from, you know, 6 months later, I ended up graduating from the Winnicott called high school. My dad was there. I played lacrosse. Was like a, you know, good lacrosse player on the team. Like, sports really helped me get through it. Sure. I needed that adrenaline rush. So I played lacrosse there, and that helped me get through it. And I was, you know, actively using drugs throughout this, but just enough to maintain because I was playing sports, and, you know, was able to kind of get through this this period of my life. And that's when I graduated high school. Then I got accepted to Johnson Wales Culinary School in Providence, Rhode Island, and I went there for 3 years, and graduated from culinary school, you know, all under active addiction, but
you did it.
Phase. Yeah, I did it, you know, and I think it's just because I just remember, like, even when I was on drugs and stuff like that, like, I knew that I had to try my best. Like, it didn't change just because I was on drugs. Like, I still was gonna do everything I had to do, you know, to get through.
That mentality that your dad put in,
at
an early age, shined through substance, even.
But
what drugs?
Main drugs was Oxycontin. That was like my drug that I did from when I was 15 years old.
Graduate culinary, just like with this. That's like the story that goes through. It's the same with most everybody. That you would think, people would think Oxycontin is like you're gonna be fucking knotted out your whole life, and if it was me, I was able to, like, graduating culinary school, like, fucking, I was able to build thousands of fucking websites on Oxy. Totally, never even took off work at all.
Yeah, it's actually crazy you say that, because I remember every time I would go to do a paper, like when I had to do a paper, I could not do the paper unless I got, like, drugs, you know, like that's just the way it was, and it was really messed up. But like, I just remember, like, it gets so worse. Messed up. Yeah, it gets worse. Yeah, I'm making like, yeah, you do drugs, it helps get you through school, but no, it really, I put me in a lot of really bad situations, and I just got by the skin of my teeth. That's really the truth of it. Like, it was just, I think, a little bit of, and I had such bad luck when I was a kid, losing my brothers and stuff like that, things I couldn't control, that maybe they were watching over me and were able to guide me through that part of my life to get an education.
Believe that.
And that's what I believe. Like, an angel just watching over me in those situations. Like, I remember being on the highway driving to class one time and friggin' waking up to hitting off the side of an 18-wheeler off the highway. But I hit it and straightened out, and I was like, oh my God. And the guy pulled over, he was like, you alright? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. My mirror got knocked off. And I was like, dude, I just hit it. I could have went under the 18-wheeler.
That was death right there.
That was death. 1 second, I nodded off, boom, and I knew when I hit him that I was out. Like, it wasn't like I just was like, boom. I was like sleeping. Like, so, dude, like, that woke me up that day a little bit, but it still didn't stop me, you know. And
so you're good. Sure. Do you do chef stuff daily?
Yeah.
With your own.
Now, still?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually still work at a restaurant, Cut 432. It's a steakhouse on Atlantic Ave in Delray Beach, and it's a 5-star steakhouse. So when I moved down to Florida after college, I kind of knew, like, I got, like, I mean, not to, like, to jump to the next thing, but yeah, I still work. I still work in the restaurant industry, and that's my other passion. But it got to the point where I was working full-time, making money as a chef, as a sous chef and stuff, and I was fighting amateurs. And then it got to the point where, like, the fighting, I was like 20 wins as an amateur, like the top #1 ranked amateur in the country, to, like, working a lot, and I'm like, dude, like, it's kind of starting to get to that point where, like,
Hard.
should I ask my chef if I can work less? Because I want to pursue this career. Like, people are telling me I could be a UFC fighter. Like, I don't know if they're just spinning my wheels, but, like, man, if there's even a shot of that,
That's
like,
the NFL
I gotta
Yeah.
take my shot at it. So one day, you know, I was still always trying to make up my mind, but the chef came in one day and he asked me, hey Charles, you know, we got a really good opportunity for you. We want you to, you know, be promoted to the next thing. It's going to be a little more hours. And I was like, chef, man, you know how much I respect you, but I want to learn from you. But his name was Tony Pizzo. He still supports me to this day. He's a great chef. He said, I actually want to go the other way. I was seeing if I could work less so I could pursue my fighting career. And he shook my hand. He goes, I totally respect that. I understand it. He was a martial artist himself, you know, didn't really, and he said, all right, man. He just let me know the days you want to work. When you're fighting, we'll work around. I'll do anything I can to help you. You've been loyal to me, working here for 3-4 years, and you know, and that's so. But it's still like that now. If I call him, he's like, you want to come in Friday night? I come and work.
That's
so
awesome. I bet
special.
you that kitchen crew will kick your kitchen crew's ass.
Yeah, dude, they sure will, and they always support me. They always put the fights on. It's like a 5-star fine dining restaurant, but they have my fight on, like with like people fine dining. And
me and Mike about to go check you out one day.
Yeah, you
we're due for a man date.
There you go.
You know,
so we're out of culinary school.
Yep.
Made it out of culinary school.
Still using, but not crazy. But having close calls like on the one on the highway.
Yeah. Avoiding death, many. Yeah, like that. And,
so you're thinking, I want to go be a chef.
Yeah. Yeah. So I graduated culinary school by the skin of my teeth. You know, and that whole time, you know, basically, you know, just to maintain my habit, because I don't know if people listen know, but an Oxycontin is $80 at the time in Providence.
On the street.
On the street, $80.
Crazy.
$80, and I would have to do 3 of them a day to be able to survive. So that's $240 a day habit minimum. And you know how college is, you're broke in college. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I had to do what I had to do to maintain. And that was a lot of trips. I met this one kid that was in the Bloods from New York at the basketball court one day, and I would take trips to these all black neighborhoods in the hood, like real
the hood
like real gang shit. Like I was like I wasn't like big into gangs and stuff like that. I wasn't in a gang myself, but I would have to go there with them and have to go pick up drugs and cop, and like we drive to New York sometimes, and it was like I thought every time I was like, this could be it. I could get shot. It was one time I actually even got shot at, and I was in the car. Another thing. This is what happened when I was in college. I was in the car, and I heard friggin' gunshots go off, and at the door, and I just saw smoke, and it was all smoke, but it was because the car peeled out. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was in heaven, dude. I woke up, I just see smoke, and I hear the gunshots, and I'm like, should I get out? And I was trying to get out of the car, but stay in the car, because I wanted to get out just to run. I'm not gonna be stuck in a car if someone comes up to the window.
Yeah, you're stuck.
Dead. Like, where are you gonna go? I'd rather be able to run and at least
have somewhat of a chance.
Yeah. He's like, stay in the car, and then he locked, and I couldn't get out. I was like, is he setting me up? What's going on? Whatever. So we pull up to the gas station, you know, after, and there's a bullet hole right in my door, like right where I'm sitting. It didn't go through, and like that was like another one of those moments, you know, and it just all these crazy things. But that's it, yeah. And I was able to support my habit by putting myself in these situations to get drugs cheaper, so I could sell them to kids in college for more. And you know, I'm not proud of that. Like, I'm not proud, but yeah, man, I was able to sell drugs, but I had to do what I had to do because I had an addiction. And that was the most important thing in my life, more important than anything. And I knew that if I didn't graduate college and do my work, then I wouldn't be able to have my addiction. I wouldn't be able to do drugs. I wouldn't be able to have the support of my family and the people around me. So it's crazy the things that fueled me and what I had to do to maintain and support my drug habit and stuff like that. But I think it's just all part of my story, man.
It's all part of the story of a champion.
That ended you up in Florida for treatment, basically?
Yep. So that's it. After college, you know, once college was done, it was kind of like that phase. Like, well, now what do I do? It's like, get a job, like, and I was like, man, I can make way more money selling drugs. So that's when it got really bad. I was making a ton of money selling drugs, cocaine, like anything that you could get, like a lot of money. Like, I had everything, and this is like the moment that changed my life. Is for like about, you know, it was pretty much the summer, because it was the summer. So those 3 months, I had I had my own little spot up in New Hampshire on the beach, like perfect spot. But all I did is sat in my house and do drugs and sell drugs. But I thought I had everything I ever wanted in my life. I had all the drugs you could ask, every type of drug, like, you know, like pounds of weed, freaking coke, everything. And I had, you know, I'd have girls be coming over to buy the stuff, so there was always girls around. I was in my own place. I was like, you know, I was the man.
I've made it.
I thought I had, and I had tons of cash. I had everything I always thought I ever wanted, like money, girls, and respect from the people.
And doing what I want to do.
I do what I want to do. I'm independent. I graduated college. Like, look at me. I'm the man. And you would think like that's what I thought was happiness for me. I thought that was my moment of happiness, and that's when it came to the point where I one day I was just must have been doing a ton of drugs, and I remember my cousin called me that day, and she was like, "Hey Charles, my cousin Lindsay, she's a sweetheart, and she's like, you want to come to the beach? All the cousins are here." It was like one of the holiday. I don't know what holidays in the summer, but it was like, you know, at the end of the summer, because I know I have to go back to school soon. And she's like, everyone's at the beach, everyone wants to see you. It's like Saturday, beautiful beach day, like 80 degrees out, perfect beach day. And I remember being in my room and like not even like wanting to go outside. I'm like,
in the dark,
yeah,
in your cave.
Dark. I'm in a cave like this, like a dark room to let things down. And I'm like, dude, what am I doing? You know? And I just remember I was like doing drugs all day and night, and I didn't even like know what day it was or nothing. And then I was like, you know, I'm gonna go for a walk to like clear my head. So I went for a walk to local Dunkin' Donuts. You know, that's where it's a spot up in Boston and up in the Hampshire area.
They're everywhere.
Went in there, and I remember this was like that moment that they say you have like a spiritual awakening, where things like I could say it was like magic for me, like where things change. I was and you know, just I was really, really bad in addiction here. So at this point, I was probably doing, you know, 5 or 6 80s a day, which if any one person took that, if a normal person took one Oxycontin 80, they'd be dead.
Yeah.
I was at 5 or 6 a day at this point. And I remember that I went for that walk to Dunkin' Donuts, and I went into the Dunkin' Donuts, and I ordered a strawberry culotta they had at the time. I don't even know if they have them anymore. And I remember taking a sip, and I remember saying to the lady, "Hey, you didn't put any flavor in it." Like, you know how sometimes you go to like the place, they put the spice like flavor in, and I'm like, she's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, no, we just mix it. It's like, you know, it's already made. Like, I just already gave it to you. It's just like, I was like, what? So it had no flavor. So I remember taking a sip, and it had no flavor, and I left. I thought the lady was crazy, and I had it in my hand. And then I remember walking home, and I had my Timberland boots on there, like they're heavy, and I remember just being like, and then all of a sudden I had like this out of body experience. Like I could see myself walking in my boots, and I was like, dude, I'm tripping. Like I'm literally tripping. Something's going on. Like what is going on?
Yeah.
And I walked into my house, walked up the stairs, went, and I looked in the mirror, and then I just didn't recognize myself. I could not even like. I was like, who is that? Like I couldn't even see myself. And so I had a number that I called. I don't know if it was like on a card or someone told me, but I looked at this number and I called, and they were able to, because my parents at this point were like kind of done sending me to treatment centers or trying to help me and stuff like that, because we went through that a lot in college. And you know, I had this number I called and was able to get myself into like a state, you know, facility. But it was that moment that like I had that spiritual awakening. Like I looked myself in the mirror, and I had everything I thought I wanted: the money, the girls, the respect, everything. And I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself, and I said, no.
Like that illusion went away.
Yeah,
you saw your real self.
It's fake. I don't have anything, you know.
Yeah.
And that day I went to a place in New Hampshire. It was like in the middle of nowhere. They came and they picked me up. I didn't have any insurance and stuff, so I don't even know how it worked. You know, I don't even remember like the name of it or anything. And I was there for 2 days, and I remember finally after 2 days of being deathly sick, like crying. I was crying like a baby to the doctor.
So they didn't have like detox like our place.
No, it wasn't like that. No, yeah, there was no
state-run place too.
Dude, I sat in a room, dude, and I just remember this doctor coming in and being like, "You like just testing my heart rate to make sure I was alive."
Yeah,
I'm like,
he's still
alive. That's like jail.
Yeah,
it's like jail.
Yeah, it was just like that. Like all they do is open the door and make sure you're breathing.
There's a
clonidine. Like, I was crying for drugs. I was like, they wouldn't even give me clonidine. Like, no, your heart rate has to be a certain level to get clonidine.
Yeah, based on
and I'm like, fucking trying to get like shadow boxing, trying to get my doing jumping jacks, trying to get my heart rate up to get a clonidine. And I'm like, no. And I'm finally like, if you guys don't give me something, I'm leaving. I'm like, okay, I'll leave. We don't give a shit.
You're just another number.
Yeah, we're helping you. You're not paying anything or nothing. So all right, give me all my stuff. And at this point, I still had money and stuff. So I turned my cell phone on. I start walking down the road, and I call the first person I call is my dad or my mom. My dad was pissed at the time. My mom, she goes, hey, I go, what are you doing? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just heading back to my house. She goes, Charles, I just talked to your father. She goes, I wouldn't go there. And I'm like, why? What's up? She goes, you maybe should just call him. So I called my dad, and this was like another one of those moments where maybe my brothers were watching over me. I went to the house. I was gonna go to the house and call my dad, and he goes, don't. He goes, Charles, don't come to the house. And I go, why? He goes, I was just cleaning out your house. I'm like, what do you mean cleaning out my house? Like, I was carrying your TV down the stairs and the cops raided your house. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, the cops were looking for you. They asked
I knew that was coming.
Yep, fucking cops raided my house. And at this point, obviously, when I went to rehab, I kind of got rid of everything I had. If they had raided the house, if I didn't have that spiritual awakening that day and they raided the house 2 days before or whatever, 3 days before it was, I would still be in jail for everything that was in my room.
For all this stuff, yeah.
There's no way. They were supposedly, like, because my dad knew one of the cops, that they were filming me, like, and had documented. They had like a big case built on me. So it wasn't like a one-time thing. So from what I understand, and dude, if I didn't have that spiritual awakening that day, I'm saying, like, and this is the crazy thing for me, is sometimes I have nightmares about, like, waking up in jail and just thinking my whole career was, like, just a fake, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a dream. Oh, I was a UFC fighter. I was like, yeah, okay, kid, you know, like,
okay,
I could still be in jail. I could have done 8 to 10 years, I feel like, and it's been 8 to 10 years since that happened, that, you know, if I was home that day and didn't have that spiritual awakening. So the next part is, you know, is what is the positive part of the story, like the turnaround. That was the moment my life flipped, and I went to Florida. So my dad was like, dude, you can't come back. He's like, Charles, you can't come back here. He goes, I'm your father. He goes, I'm upset with you, but I care enough about you to tell you to not come back here to the house and be arrested. And I was like,
that was a huge I love you moment from Dad.
So he said, yeah, and he told me, you know, the one thing we always had that respect, like, no matter how mad, we would never, you know, like, try to put someone in jail or do something like that, you know, something like that. We always had that respect with each other. So I went to my Uncle Tommy's house, like, the last resource I had, and, you know, another man that I think saved my life. Like, he was a little bit more compassionate and understanding of me, and because, you know, my dad was tough, you know, he's a strong, tough guy, and you know, held me accountable, you know. So I went to my Uncle Tommy, and he knew this place in Pennsylvania called Karen Renaissance, and he drove me to Pennsylvania, which I went there for 30 days, and they drove me to Florida. They told me I'd be in Florida for 30 days. I was like, vacation, get to go surfing, go to the beach.
Disney World in the backyard.
Yeah, and boy, did they trick me, you know. So I ended up being there for 7-8 months, went through tons of treatment, you know.
At Karen? At their Florida place? At
yeah,
Renaissance?
Yeah, so that's...
Renaissance is not an easy fucking place either. No, Renaissance is like a you don't know what.
I don't know Renaissance.
I've been there.
Renaissance, yeah.
It's a confrontational treatment.
Yep.
Probably what
totally
he needed.
Yeah, I was there.
Dude, they held me accountable for everything. Yeah. They lied, like, they were so bad that they played what I would do. Like, I would try to, you know, everyone tries to get through treatment. They try to, like, kind of trick everyone. Oh, I'm doing great. They would call my parents and lie to them and tell them that I was doing things that I wasn't doing.
They create situations.
They create situations.
That's what they do.
Yeah, they do things. They would lie to my parents and say I was doing the wrong thing, so my parents wouldn't listen to me and let me come home and stuff. So think about it. If a kid wants in treatment and he's doing everything he has to do, does every assignment, everything, and he's doing perfect. 30 days goes by, he's done everything perfect patient. And then they let him go home. That's what always happens mostly in treatment centers. But these people were a step ahead of the game. Yeah. They would call him like, oh, he's not doing anything right. He did this, he did A, B, and C. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're lying.
I didn't do anything.
They go, oh, well, you know, sometimes we got to sneak down to your level and play the junkie role. I'm like, you're fucking lying. I'm like, you said I did this. They're like, yeah, well, you know, we got to.
They have your parents come here.
We got to make it a fair game here.
Oh my
shit!
God!
Yeah, so then they had the parents come down. They had family.
The whole family, or just your parents?
My parents, and
it
was an absolute. It was a friggin' nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
Tough 8 months, yeah. Right. So you went there too?
Yeah, and the parents and the family thing, man.
Family
week. All the other parents are fucking railing on you. They don't even know you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You saying?
And they're just going in.
The first day. So I'll just give you an example of the type of place I went to. The first day, went in there. Not day one. Going in my first group, big circle, 30, 40 people, therapist in the middle. They bring this guy in, dad. He's like a 65, 70-year-old dad, and they're like, she's like, everyone's watching, like, hey, so you don't take care of your kids, do you, very much? And he's like, well, yeah, I do my best. You know, I'm an alcoholic. She's like, yeah, you're an alcoholic, but you care about your alcohol more than your kids. Is that right? He's like, that's not true. And he's getting this guy really sad. He's basically in tears, you know. And I'm like, damn, they're ripping into this guy. I'm like, I'm about to stick up for him. But I'm like, it's my first day. Like, I'm laying back. Like, I'm not doing anything.
And are they gonna call me next?
I'm staying out of this. And they're telling this kid, and this guy's like basically in tears, saying how much he loves his kids, and they're telling him that he doesn't. And she goes, you know what you are? She goes, you're a deadbeat dad. And the guy goes, and then the group starts going, deadbeat dad. And they start chanting deadbeat dad. It was like the most fucked up, like, I didn't say anything. I was like, oh my god. But that's the type of treatment. Like and I don't, like, you can say, well, what's the point of that? How could that? But they're letting this guy know, like, this is how, and his, you know, I'm sure his family or whatever was there, it was like family week. Like, they're letting this family know that he's not getting out of this rehab. Like, he's not just gonna, you know, walk through this. I'm guessing, you know, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. It's just like you're not just gonna.
It's just a form of treatment.
It's like, a different type of treatment.
Most of the places have some little bit of confrontation, like by someone like Tracy.
Right.
She's a counselor. It's different. You don't, like, most places, especially our place, they don't have this kind of shit.
Yeah, they don't have that hardcore style.
It's a different
yeah, it was just a different style.
And they pit everybody in the... All the patients are, like, you're used to calling all the other patients out. That's what the whole thing is about.
Because you're all part of each other's therapy.
Exactly, and then like, you start by being... everyone giving up on you to you being the one to help other people, and you kind of learn how to be a therapist when you're there, you know what I mean? It's just like, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily that style that helped me, but it was that point in my life that I was completely willing to do whatever I never would take someone else's advice or have enough respect for someone to listen to them, like, do what someone else says, even though my instincts are telling me to do what I want to do. But I trusted my instincts so many times through my whole addiction, from when I was, 15 years old to, 22 years old, that my instincts got me in trouble every time. So this was the first time in my life that said, you know what, I'm going to do what they say, even though I think it's the stupidest thing ever. Like, I'm going to trust a therapist, I'm going to talk to
follow orders.
I'm just going to do what they say. And this comes to the thing that we talked about in the beginning. One day I go to group and they told me, Charles, when you come to group tomorrow, I want you to bring a white flag. And I said, white flag? I want you to surrender. I said, surrender to what? Like, we want you to give up. We want you to, stop. I'm like, well, I stopped doing drugs. I've been clean for like 70 days now. They're like, no, we want you to stop fighting so much. They told me as a UFC fighter, now I'm a UFC fighter. I wasn't then, obviously. I had no, I was just a hockey player before. And everything instilled in me from my father that to give up, they quit, like, to stop. And I don't know why. It makes sense, like, yeah, quit drugs, like, it's okay to quit drugs. But for me, growing through everything I went through, jail and all this stuff, like, I wasn't a quitter.
I don't quit.
I don't know how to explain it, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you look at, well, of course, that's something stupid. It's drugs. You gotta quit it. But I just don't know why I couldn't stop. So they basically had my dad come in, and they told him that you can tell your son that he can quit.
Wow.
And it fucking worked. I don't know. Here I am. So
holy shit.
Yeah,
so, but it took your dad to give you the permission of.
Yeah.
This is a different situation where you can surrender something.
Yeah. Yeah, you can quit now. And I said, all right.
Because you surrender to win.
Yeah, and that's what happened. And within the next week, my therapist gave me a directive to find. I was like, I'm still having anxiety. Like, I want to do something else with my life. I don't just want to, I got a job as a chef now. I've been working there for a month. But what do I else to do? She's like, why don't you, you said you always liked, boxing and stuff like that. Like, why don't you find, like, a boxing gym? I said, all right. So I went and found a boxing gym. Well, she didn't really say boxing gym, but she's like, find another hobby. And I said, what about boxing? She's like, whatever you want, maybe yoga, whatever. But I found what I thought was a boxing gym, but was American Top Team in Boca Raton with
another
Charles
divine
McCarthy.
Moment.
Friggin' rode my bicycle by it. Literally, I was, rode my bicycle by this gym. I thought it was a boxing gym, and that day I went into this what I thought was a boxing gym was an MMA gym. I went in the daytime, and he said, oh, come back tonight. We have a kickboxing class. I didn't have any gloves. They let me borrow their gloves, and I went in for the kickboxing class. No shin guards, so anyone that knows MMA, like, I'm going into this kickboxing class with no a kickboxing class taught by a UFC fighter, Cole Miller, with no shin guards, no mouthpiece, just boxing gloves, no hand wraps. You know what I mean? Like,
first day
off the streets of Boston, like, I'm gonna F everyone up. Like, I just thought I was a tough
That's
guy.
what you thought?
Yeah, oh yeah, I thought I was gonna smoke everybody.
I think a lot of people probably think that, right?
A lot of people do, and that still happens when people come to the gym. It's funny, but that's what's like, it's like
you can relate because you thought that at one point.
I was that kid. I was a tough street kid from Boston. I fought in fights in jail. Like, I'll F everyone.
Who's Cole Miller?
Cole Miller was, his nickname's actually Negrinho, which means skinny in Portuguese.
And he's a super nice guy.
Oh yeah, Cole's awesome. Yep. He's one of my huge mentors, and part of the reason I'm in the UFC today. He's a huge mentor. A coach, one of my first coaches, and I remember taking his class, did the entire class, like, first 15 minutes warm up, 30 minutes technique, last 15 minutes sparring, sparring. I'm like, oh yeah,
this is what I've been waiting for.
What I've been waiting for. Sure enough, I'm the odd man out. I don't have shin guards, I don't have a freaking mouthpiece. Like, hey Charles, just go hit the bag. And I'm like, dude, I freaking did the whole class so I could do this. And he's like, let's hit the bag. And I'm like pretty respectful, but I'm also like watching the round. The round goes by, everyone's having fun, freaking slugging it out. And the next round I go, can I go in? He goes, no man, just it's your first day. I go, well, what about you? I go, can I go with you? He goes, you want to go with me?
To Cole Miller?
Yeah, Cole Miller.
Oh shit!
Well, I didn't know, and just for I'm not an idiot. I didn't know who Cole Miller was. I just thought he was some skinny kickboxing coach. Like I was like, oh, I have to screw this guy up. And he ignored me, and he like kind of turned around and was like, yeah, okay, kid. And I was like, I go, was that a no? And he turned around and goes, all right, you want to go? I said, yeah, I just asked you. So let's go. And I friggin' squared them. There were 3 more 3-minute rounds, and I just slugged it out with them 3 rounds. And I survived. Like, I don't know how. I just remember thinking I got the better of it, but then like knowing on the bike ride home that I didn't, because I was like, dude, that kid fucked me up. Like, but I also like, I was kind of like Happy Gilmore when he fights Bob Barker. I was like, I still feel I won the fight. You know, it's like
I hung. Yeah, it was a victory.
It's like, yeah, I won. I beat that kid up.
For those of you who don't know, Cole Miller is a badass.
Yeah, he was a top 10 in the world at the time in the UFC.
He's a
top, and you know.
So, I got a picture somewhere with him, rear naked choking at my first UFC. Seriously.
So I go to the rehab that night, come home the next day, and I would always get shit for having black eyes in rehab, but that's another story. But I came back the next day, and Charles McCarthy was like, hey, Charles, he goes, come in my office real quick. He goes, hey, did you ever train before? And I was like, well, I mean, I played hockey, and I'm like, been in street fights. He's like, no, but like formal training. And I'm like, when I was a kid, I did karate, but like nothing really. He's like, dude, he's like, so you didn't come from like an MMA gym? And I'm like, no. He's like, really? He's like, man, you got a lot of talent for this. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, that kid you just were sparring with, I was watching from the window, the office window. He goes, that was Cole Miller. He's a top 10 fighter in the world. And I was like, what? He goes,
and your first day.
I go in the UFC? He goes, yeah. Dude, that second, a fucking light bulb went off. Our light bulb like went off, and I was like, dude, I can do this. Like, I felt that second he told me that, I fell in love with MMA instantly. I didn't miss a class. I went every single day, rode my bike. I didn't have a car at the time, so I rode my bike from the rehab to the gym every day, would ride home, ride my bike to work, ride home, wake up in the morning and do that basically 6-7 days a week. Like, my off day I was training. Like, my Sunday that I didn't have to work or whatever day I had off of work, I trained twice that day.
This was your new drug.
This is my life. This is my drug. This is everything.
And you felt yourself changing? Like, you felt yourself getting better and, like, mentally?
Better, stronger, friggin' more attention. Like, everyone just... It was just my life got better and better. It didn't stop getting better. And then along this time, I was still going to meetings, doing the right thing, helping people, being active. And from that moment that I stopped doing drugs, I can honestly say, like, my life didn't stop, besides the 8 months of treatment, which they tortured me, my life didn't stop getting better from that second that I walked in that MMA gym. And it still continued like that to this day. You know, I mean, yeah, you'll have bad days and good days or bad weeks, but overall, I saw my bank account would just continuously go up, and my happiness would continuously go up, and I just, like, everything just kept getting better and better.
Every aspect of your life was upgraded.
Yeah, everything was better, like, you know, and finally, I remember, you know, I ended up, you know, fast forward through my amateur career, but I kept training. I was the #1 amateur fighter in the country. Like, I fought tons of fights. That's how I met Dean Thomas and all those, you know, all those guys, and how I got connected with you and stuff. And you know, fighting up in Rise of the Warrior, the amateur fights, and, you know, getting a huge following, having shirts made with my names, and became, like, you know, like a local superstar at the time. You know,
seeing your dream come to reality right before you.
And it wasn't even and then even at that time when I had all this, I still didn't think I would be like in the UFC. Oh my god,
that still seemed like on a pedestal.
I remember seeing a Bellator poster, and it said like $100,000 Bellator tournament. Like, and I remember thinking, like, oh my god, if I could ever do that tournament and win it, like, my life would be made. Like, I'm rich for the rest. I didn't know, like, I never even of money.
I'm set.
I'm good, dude.
Buy a mansion and a boat.
I was living like paycheck to paycheck in a treatment center, so you can imagine $100,000.
Yeah,
like,
seems like a lot then.
A lot of money. And,
still does.
Yeah, and then like, and then once that amateur point came, when Charles McCarthy came to me, who was my mentor at the time.
Another UFC legend.
UFC legend, like one of the best grapplers there was to do it. It was like, Charles, man, he goes, dude, we've been fighting all these amateur fights for nothing. He goes, you gotta take it. He's like, you ready to go pro now? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, what do I gotta do? He's like, it's the same thing as amateurs, just you're gonna get paid now. And I was like, hell yeah. And he goes, man, he goes, Charles, you could be, you know, he goes, you can make it all the way. He's like, you can make it into the UFC. And I thought, I'm like, is he just spinning my wheels, like,
he's trying to motivate me?
And he's like, no, Charles. He goes, I'm serious. He even said, he goes, I'm not just spinning your wheels here. He goes, I'm telling you, you can do this. He goes, I've been around. He was on the Ultimate Fighter show. He's been around all the fighters. He goes, you're very unique. I haven't really seen anyone like you ever. He's like, you're a very unique person, and I'm sure of it. Like, if you can stay healthy, you'll make it. And that's what happened. I went 9-0 with all first-round finishes. Actually, 1 in the second round. So 8 first-round finishes, 1 in the second round.
Wow.
All finishes, 9-0. And then I got that call to fight Dennis Seaver in Stockholm, Sweden. So
yeah, let's go to that next clip. Just a couple fight. The bottom right one. Look at that.
Yeah.
Small pinky, the left pinky toe right in Dennis Seaver's eye right there.
And he was the number 10 ranked fighter in my weight class. And the weird thing about fighting him was like that was like that moment. Like I was a fan of his when I fought him. Like Dennis Seaver at the time was the best.
Known as the spinning body kick guy.
He was like the German
Tough
like monster.
German.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was scary,
and he was juiced out. So he just got his last fight before that. He was out for a year because he tested positive for steroids. So like this was like a German friggin' juice machine.
You know what his face reminds me of too?
Yeah.
His face reminds me of like a character in Dick Tracy.
Yeah. So that's
like
the
he's
crazy
just
part.
like
No, that's the crazy part about it.
He looks
too.
scary,
like,
dude.
So and this all happened within 5 days' notice. I didn't.
5 days notice.
I took this fight on 5 days.
To fight the number 10 guy in the world.
I was 178 pounds. I had to cut 33 pounds to make 145 pound weight cut limit, and this is like, but this is my dream come true. Like this is like, so even though this wasn't like what I thought, like my first time rehab, like I'm gonna be a UFC fighter. This was like me ever since I was a kid. I didn't mention like when the teachers would ask me what I wanted to do, and the reason I ended up going to college is when I was a kid, they said, "What do you want to be?" I want to be in the NHL. I want to be a hockey player. And they're like, "Well, what do you really want to do?" You know? And
yeah, every kid wants to be a
baseball player. I took a shot at it. I did everything I could do to make the NHL. I played a little bit of hockey in college. I played at Johnson & Wales. We used to scrimmage with the Providence Bruins, and I kind of knew like there's different levels to it. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know if it's just that's not fast enough. What it is? I try hard, but these guys are like 6'4". Their sticks can reach me from across the ice. They're just I don't know. Just like
another level.
Half of them are from Canada, you know, they're just like beasts, you know. I don't know.
Born on the ice.
I don't know what it is. I guess you could say they were just like better. It didn't make me stop because I still thought I could work hard enough to do it, but it kind of like fell off and my dream didn't come true. And even when I was in high school, when the guidance counselor asked me, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to go to college for?" I said, "I want to play hockey." They're like, "You can't go to college to play hockey." I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, we can find you a school that has hockey." I was like, "All right, what schools have hockey?"
You gotta have a degree
like,
in something.
well, what else do you like to do? I'm like, "Well, I like to eat." And they're like, "Well, Johnson & Wales has hockey and food." I said it as a joke, like being a wise.
I like to play hockey.
Chef school.
So that's what I did. I fucking went to chef school and I played hockey and I fucking food all day, and it brought me all the way to, you know.
So how do you lose 30 fucking pounds?
33 pounds
in a week.
That's
something that's that
cut a leg off.
That's that dedication. I wanted this moment so bad. Like once they told me that the UFC was a possibility and everything I worked for and everything that I went through, I knew it was like all for this moment. You know, like that was like everything flashed in front of my eyes. Like from that moment that, you know, my dad told me that the cops were at the house looking for me, you know, to, you know, looking in the mirror that day, to all the drugs that were around and all the jail sentence I had to beat and the whole, like all that stuff, like came full circle, and I was like, dude, this is what it is. I'm be a UFC fighter. This is
no matter
I'm gonna be
what
a professional athlete. You know, this is everything I've ever wanted. My dream just came true. Like literally, like it's not even a dream because I never even dreamed of being that awesome. You know, I never even dreamed of being like, you know, the best. I mean, I would dream of playing in the NHL, but like for me, if you could tell me that I could make money, like even through my active addiction, like when I was a kid, make money fighting, like what I would get in trouble for, I don't think there's anything friggin' more gangster than that. Like you can say selling drugs is cool or anything, but to be able to make money, like fighting with your own two hands, like the person I looked up to most was Kimbo Slice at the time. Like I fucking love that guy. He was a legend to me. Like he was like the man, and that's what he did. He was getting street fights for money, and I was like, dude, if I can make money like that, like,
that's what I'll do.
That's what I want to do. And then that was the first, because even though I was 9-0, I was only making like $1,000 a fight. You know?
And when you
People
pay for a
don't
training
understand,
camp and stuff like that,
I would lose money every fight, even fighting pros. Like and even though I was like a local superstar, like had a big following, I'd sell T-shirts. Like I was like
that doesn't pay your rent.
No, I was scrambling to get.
Oh, everybody loves you. Yeah. Well, the fridge is empty.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people and sponsors and things helped me along the way, and I'm super grateful for that. But it all came stemming from doing the right thing, you know, helping people in the beginning, you know, doing the right thing, like, and, you know, ever since, like I said, stopped doing drugs and, you know, and it wasn't just drugs. That's the thing people get confused about. It was like my character traits. Like I just like you know, with like stealing. Like I'm not like a thief really. I don't think I'm a thief, but like I just noticed that every time I went into a store when I was in my active addiction, I would steal something. I don't know how. I just end up with something. Like even if it was a toothbrush from like, and that's the type of thing.
So
or even litter.
behaviors.
I would throw food out the window. I wouldn't care. Litter. I would never think about anything like that. And these are things that the treatment center told me to stop doing. Like you got to stop lying. You got to stop stealing. You got to stop littering. And I was like, well, what? How do I know what I can and can't do? She goes, well, let's start by not breaking the law. Let's follow the law first. And I was like, whoa.
That's a good start.
It's a good start. So that's how I started.
Sure.
And I built myself that I could build in my personality and my character defects and all these things that you work on through like the program and different things. And that's kind of helped me so much in MMA because I don't have a huge ego like most of these MMA fighters that holds them back. A lot of these guys that I still see that I still train with, there's a very small percentage of guys that can make it to the UFC. And you don't just have to be a good fighter. You don't just have to be a charismatic fighter. You're a disciplined fighter, but you have to be all those things. You have to be the whole package.
Great at all of that.
That's a UFC fighter. That's a UFC fighter. Everything. And you can't have a big ego to be a great fighter most of the time. You see guys, but most of it's an act. Like you see like the Conor McGregor's, he had a huge ego, but he wasn't always like that. He would,
that's the business side of him. To sell fights.
Yeah, but also he might have got that over time, kind of like Ronda Rousey used to be a sweetheart, but once she got so famous, the UFC could kind of make you a monster.
When she was kind of a bully, yeah.
But the thing that gets you good at fighting is learning the techniques and being humble enough and open-minded enough to take advice from somebody who might be smaller than you, might be skinnier than you, that might you might be a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but this guy's a boxing coach, and once you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I know everything, but guess what, you don't know everything about boxing. So you have to be humble and like this, and I don't even like what word, but you have to be able to open-minded, exactly,
and willing to learn new things.
And these are things that I learned through recovery in the program, so they actually helped me a lot.
Sure.
They really helped me, and that's kind of how I was able to learn the skills to be good enough to be in the UFC too, because it's not just that I'm a tough kid, it's also I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu now. It's like a lot of like training, like sitting down, learning moves and stuff like that.
You're black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. A lot of people don't see this. You got to look at the name tied into who gave the black belt.
Yeah.
Because I could go get a black belt at Kinder Care down the street.
It's funny because they say one of my coaches, Blake, used to say, I'm like, hey coach, I'm fighting a black belt. He goes, no, Charles. He goes, he has a black belt. I go, what do you mean? He goes, he has a black belt. It doesn't mean he's a black belt. It's like, okay, because whenever I get fights scheduled and stuff, but it's always a good point. Like to be like a true black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like you'd want to get it from someone reputable. I got mine from Ricardo Laborio, who's one of the best,
huge names
of all time.
Yeah.
And Charles McCarthy, who, UFC fighter, submission specialist.
Known for submissions, yeah.
And a crazy story about Charles McCarthy is he told me his last fight, where he retired from, he fought Michael Bisping. And he told me
I remember that fight.
The reason that he retired is because when he lost to Michael Bisping, he thought his goal was to be a UFC champion. And he thought if he lost to Michael Bisping, there's no way he could ever be a UFC champion because Michael Bisping at the time was not the best fighter in the world.
And then he went on to be a champion.
And now Michael Bisping is the UFC champion. So I always tell him, like, man, what do you think?
Should have
kept
going.
I don't know, I made a mistake. But it's just funny, but it's just the way the world works. But that's
here's a smaller scale of that. Hey, what was the kid's name? Shabat?
Yeah. Shaput.
Shaput. You didn't know at the time. You felt embarrassed. You got your ass kicked by a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Don't feel too bad. Right?
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
No, he's probably watching me on TV like, hell yeah.
I got knocked out by him. I'll take that. Not the 110-pound kid that nobody knew.
Do you have like a manager?
Yeah, I was managed by Charles McCarthy for a long time, and now I'm managed by, it's a friend of Dana White, this guy Joe Cavallero, just kind of really good guy, just, helps me. But my manager for the longest time was Charles McCarthy. He managed me through my whole amateur career, entire pro career, all the way to the UFC, so
is there people, is there like, I don't know if it's a lot, but UFC fighters who get like screwed over by
managers?
That type of a manager type person?
Well, here's the thing people don't understand, and if you're good, you don't have to be that good at math to understand this, but just say, which is best case scenario, like very best case scenario for any UFC fighter except like champions, you were to make $100,000 on a fight, right? Just say, which isn't actually how much they make. It's more like $20,000, but I'm giving you like the highest number I ever possibly made on a fight. Fighting on a pay-per-view card in Mexico, like 20%, 5% goes to the gym. America top team, 5%.
So now we're at 95.
Yeah, 15 to 20%, depending on who your manager is. I'd just make it 20 to make it like, you know, sound better. 20% goes to your manager.
Now
so
75.
The 25%. Yeah, yep. So yep. Now you only make it 75. Then training camp expenses, at least, you know, I'd say 3 to 5%. You know, 5% of that, like throughout the whole camp.
$5,000 that give or take.
Yep. And then
so that's 70.
Okay, yeah, 70. And then taxes. So if you fight in Stockholm, Sweden, you know, I got taxed 30-40%. So now you're left with like, I don't know how much, like maybe less than half.
Plus all the months that you go into training,
less than half,
and then time to recover after. So, yeah, that's why fighters only fight 2-3 times a year. Yeah, usually. Yeah. So you're not really making that much unless, like you said, you're a big name, or in your case, because of how you fight.
Yeah, I mean, and the only reason I have any money now is because of the way I fight. Like I said, that it wasn't even from all the training I have. It's because of what my dad taught me when I was a kid. Never give up. Like the only losses I have in the UFC are all fight of the night. So you know,
which says a lot.
Yeah, and they're all against top-ranked guys. Like one against, I don't know if anyone saw the Yair Rodriguez fight. He just knocked out Korean Zombie, but
that was a crazy fight, by the way.
I mean, I'll say it and I'll continue to say it. I mean, I won that fight. I went to Mexico, my American flag. I walked out of the tunnel in Mexico City with 30,000 plus people
against you.
Against me.
He's a Mexican.
He was the Ultimate Fighter Latin America champion, and so he was a Mexican champion at the time. He walked out. And I ended up losing a split decision after a fight I thought I won. I mean, you could go back and watch it, you know. And
for you casual fans out there, MMA fans or non-MMA fans, Yair Rodriguez has been built up as like the second coming. Yeah. In a lot of ways. He's a real flashy, kind of unorthodox style. Yeah. And you lost a split decision, bear in mind, split decision in Mexico. Yair Rodriguez's country. Yeah, with the judges, and so basically 2 judges gave him the fight, 1 judge gave me, and it was actually 2 judges gave me the fight. You know, like it was split, so like it was close. That's always going to be One judge said I won, 2 judges said I lost, and that's how it went down. And we gotta run that one back, UFC. I think. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Yair Rodriguez, to give you an example, he was in a fight this past Saturday, which is a candidate, I think, for Fight of the Year. Fight of the Year and Knockout of the Year. And he won in the last second of the fight with a spinning, like upside down elbow. Yeah. I mean, just a crazy ending. He actually got a double bonus, but he also got the bonus when he fought me. So we ended up getting Fight of the Night, which was awesome. And you know, I think, I mean, like Yair's good. He's a good kid, great fighter and stuff like that. He not taking anything away from him because he fought his ass off too that night. So no disrespect, but like I said, I don't. We're gonna run that one back. Yeah, I gotta run it back one day. So, but my whole point is that all the money I really made in the sport was those 3 Fight of the Night bonuses was from not giving up. And how you fight. Through learning from what I did and all these experiences I went through as a kid, and that's kind of I think what makes me a special fighter is all these experiences that I went through, and you know, from like I said, from being, you know, losing my brothers to going to jail, even though I didn't, you know, get charged with anything, to, you know, it's not like I have a huge criminal record. I have no criminal record, but and actually I didn't even say, but I had to go twice. They did this to me twice. They sectioned me twice. 30 days. Where you had no charge, that type of thing? Yeah. Oh. And then when I was 18, they did it again because I was in over the summer they did it, so I didn't get charged with anything, but it got sent there. So before I went to college, I went there.
How long does a UFC fighter last for?
Depends on how they fight.
Yeah, well, it depends on the fighter. Everyone has different genes, you know what I mean? Like, some people mature at young ages. Like I said, when I was 18 years old, I wasn't even mature yet. So I feel like, for me, like I'm 32 years old, but I feel like my maturity, and like right now, if you look at all the champions, I'd say, this is just a guess, but about half the champions are between 36 and 40. Yeah, they're upper. 2 years old. Yeah, upper. So I would say I'm just in my prime right now. Like, I would say, or 30, just hitting. I would say MMA fighters prime for like male MMA fighters prime would be, you know, I'd say 32 to 34 years old. You know, in other sports you would argue it's clearly, like for basketball and football, it's like 26 to 29, but it's just a different sport because you have to learn a lot of things. Like, it's a lot of experience goes into it, and it's like, unlike other sports where it relies just on athleticism, like MMA relies on mixed martial arts. You have to learn all these abilities. You have to learn how to box. You got to learn how to wrestle. And there's always a better wrestler than you. You go to the Olympic wrestling room, you're going to get smoked. You go to the jiu-jitsu, the best jiu-jitsu guys, you're going to get smoked by some of the best black belts around. You go to a boxing gym, these Olympic boxers, or, you know, pro boxers will put you on your ass. go to a Dutch kickboxing gym or go to Thailand, you spar with these Thai and Dutch kickboxing champions, they're going to kick your ass. But guess what? When you put them all together, that's what makes someone like me, or makes a UFC fighter, is somebody that's really good at all these things. May not be the best at any one of them, but you know, they're really good at all.
The first word in MMA
and,
is mixed.
And that's a fighter, and that's what mixed martial arts is you find you find a way to win, you know? Like, you look at what Tyron Woodley had to do. Like, he had to go from fighting Damian Maia, the best jiu-jitsu guy, MMA fighter, like, on the planet,
to Stephen
to
Thompson.
going to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who's the best karate striker on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, Stephen Thompson's the best striker on the planet, hands down.
Two completely different type of specialists.
Different. And then like, he's pretty, you know, now he's going up against like a Colby Covington, which is like a wrestler type. It's like the crazy the differences of these guys that they're fighting. It's insane, you know.
Who would you like to fight coming up? So give us like 2 or 3 guys that
I definitely would want that Yair Rodriguez rematch one day.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it, just because of like how it went down. There's
guys out there, even if you just watch the first 45 seconds.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's just madness.
It's craziness.
Yeah.
All right, so Yair for sure.
Yeah. And well, I feel stupid saying it before, but like I was supposed to fight BJ Penn, but he ended up not taking the fight. He took Cole instead, and then Cole ended up getting injured. So like, you know, I wanted him only because, like, and I don't want to call him, he's a freaking legend, but it's just like one of those type of names that wants to get you to that next level. Like, they can get you.
That's huge, yeah.
You know, you got it's a feather in your cap. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I mean, it's what it is. And there's nobody else really in particular, but I just want to be able to get back in there. You know, I'm coming off an injury. I'm better now. I'm just waiting on the UFC clearance letter from the doctors. I go in January. I'm pretty confident I'll get the letter, so you know, hopefully you'll see me back in there in February, March. And
so February, March is your
February, March
shot.
is where I'm guessing I'll make my comeback date. And I've been doing physical therapy every day, but I feel strong, and I almost think of it's like a blessing in disguise, because it's worked on the things that I never worked on before, like, you know, conditioning my body, like strength and conditioning type stuff. I always thought that stuff was for bodybuilders. I'm like, if you want to be a good fighter, you fight. Like, you want to be a good wrestler, you wrestle. Like, if you want to be a good MMA fighter, why would you lift weights? Like, we're not lifting weights here, you know. But
we're kicking ass.
It's a hard mentality for me, but it's something that I've learned. You have to have a balance. That's why it's mixed martial arts. It's everything combined, and that's what I'm doing. So
today's been such an awesome, like, intimate look into. I really, you know, I've probably personally been to thousands and thousands of meetings, recovery meetings.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, out of, you know, all these incredible human beings that I've met, your story, to me, is the most amazing one.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. Yeah. I mean, fighters always have the best stories, man. That's one thing. Like, it's very rare you're gonna find some just fighter that just like has no backstory, like amazing backstory. You know?
Well, Michael
that's
Stone.
What makes you be.
He's a fighter. You guys are. We're gonna get you to grapple before. Is that cool?
Yeah, I got a backstory though.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You went to Riverside. You got the backstory.
I got a fucking backstory.
Yeah. So, but I always notice that, like, whenever I talk to fighters, like, to be able, it takes a special kind of person that's been through some serious shit to be able to walk into that octagon and then lock the door. There's no doubt about it. Like, so, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody, like, you probably look at, like, Sage Northcutt, and you're like, oh, that kid's just a pretty boy, but I bet that kid has been through some
went through something.
Shit. Something, I almost guarantee it. If not, maybe just a regular kid that grew up, but
that can fight.
Luckily in a karate gym, like, in just the right place, right time, like, everything worked out, but to be able to make that walk takes some pain and just, agony and things that you went through to be able to be confident making that walk. I feel like, personally, but some people might feel
Dean
different.
Thomas told me that the closest feeling in the world to walking out to the cage is the moment before, because he's an actor.
Yeah.
Is the moment, he said, before an actor walks on stage.
Oh wow!
That split second.
Yeah.
Where, like, I'm not on stage yet, and I'm like.
Yeah, make that walk.
That moment, he said, is like the closest, like, parallel.
Yeah.
Not quite, he said,
yeah,
but the closest. So in my stupid mind, I'm like, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
I'm a fighter.
Yeah, no, you are, man. It's the same. I actually just read an article. I don't know where it was about that. Like, actors, I like fighters because they have to come up in these little acting shows and no one's really laughing or watching that. Kind of like I came up fighting in high school gymnasiums and as amateurs for friggin' nothing, to, you know, all of a sudden being on the big show with his friggin' tons of people cheering your name and stuff. So
there's some parallels. I think part of it too is the self-belief.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go in there, I'm assuming, and say, wow, Yair Rodriguez is really awesome. Oh my God, he's gonna kill me. Like, you have to have that. I'm gonna hurt him.
There's not one time ever, and I can say in all my fights, that I haven't 100% been positive that I was gonna win the fight. Like, not even a friggin' doubt in my mind. 100% sure.
And that's how an actor has to be.
That's
Going in an
100%.
audition, when I see 30 other Justins, and we all have the same stupid line,
Yeah.
I have to believe.
Yeah.
So what is Chucky's fight doing like now?
Yeah.
So-
is it still going on?
Yeah,
Doing
so what
stuff?
Chucky's fight is, that this is a kind of a part that we didn't really get into, but after my brothers passed away, and once I was in the treatment center, when my dad came for family week, when he went back home, kind of everything we went through, like, we got a lot of work done and stuff, like, you know, and after losing my brothers, we spread their ashes in the ocean. So my dad's way of dealing with it, like, I just did tons of drugs. My dad's way of dealing with it is, he didn't do drugs, and he, wasn't his way. Is he went to jump in the ocean every day. And where he lives up in New Hampshire, Boston area, in the wintertime, it's negative 20 degrees sometimes. The winds howling, it can be wind chill factor, like freezing.
Negative,
freezing. And the ocean doesn't freeze, for people who don't know. So the ocean doesn't freeze, you know what I mean? So, like,
Freezes
even if it's
midway.
freezing,
Freezes your ass off. That's what
frozen.
it does.
Yeah, freezes your ass off.
You go, yeah. He'd be so cold that the hairs sometimes.
Yeah,
would
we
freeze.
saw his pictures. I was like,
So,
what the fuck?
That's
the way
crazy.
he dealt with it is he would go jump in the water, and after him doing it for a little while, someone was like, "Oh, why do you do that?" And then he's told him, and then she's like, "You should start, like, it was someone's idea, kind of just like, you should do something with that." And my dad's like what? Like, my mom's like what? She's like, so that's how they started Chucky's fight. The idea of Chucky's fight came on that people could start jumping in with them and raising money to help people get into treatment centers that don't have the funds. Because if you don't have insurance, it's very difficult to get into
Are
treatment
you
centers.
involved with the Chucky's thing too?
100% involved. There's a lot. Every time I go up there, we jump in the water. I go to speak. Pretty much every time I go up there, we'll go to some type of community service event. We do car washes, raise money, or I'll go speak to kids in treatment centers, like these little groups. Like, he helps kids get community service hours. So there's, like, adolescents and kids that got in trouble that used to do the stuff I used to do. To end up
Little
in trouble.
Charles Rose.
Little Charles Rose running around that I go talk to, and I'm like, dude, I was you like
Listen
10 years
to me.
ago. And they're like, but the cool thing about me is they were, I know they respect me.
Yeah, now that
These
you have the
kids are
UFC
like,
platform, they're going to listen to you.
Man, like, there's a guy, so that's why I like it. And then when you look at my dad, like, he's not like, he don't look like a doctor, you know what I mean? So sometimes they don't like to listen to the therapists and the doctors, but they see someone like my dad who's a maniac, big beast, and he's like, he don't really follow the rules.
Shoot straight from the hip.
Exactly, shoots straight from the hip. But they listen to him. They sit down, they listen, and it's amazing. It's amazing the impact that it can make. And I've seen the impact it make. My dad has thousands of letters. My dad goes to schools pretty much every weekend to speak to different high schools and the whole high school pretty much. And he gets kids community service hours. He has kids cooking Italian food with him in the kitchen, teaching kids how to cook, teaching them how to pull weeds in the garden, all from teaching them how to cook to teaching them how to do labor, like everything, and he helps a lot in the community. He's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the community and gotten hundreds of thousands of kids into treatment in that area. And he's gotten some backing from the senator in New Hampshire. And they've done a lot of really amazing things, and they just continue to, and it hasn't stopped.
He's like a badass Mother Teresa.
Yeah, he's
you know what I'm saying?
He helps a lot of people, dude. And when I went up for New Year's, I think at least 200 people jumped in the friggin' ocean. It was snowing out, so, and they all.
I'm gonna do it. That's on my bucket list.
Man.
That is gonna happen. I actually messaged your dad on Facebook, Chucky's fight. I think it's so cool that I'm even friends with you guys. But like that's where I'm at. I'm like, I have these awesome people in my life. But I messaged him and I said, I'm gonna come up there one day and jump in the water with you. And your dad, I think, was like, yeah, everybody says that.
No, but people drive. There's a couple people. Everyone does say that, but you gotta be the one that does it.
So I gotta do it.
He's challenging you, man.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta show up and get my nipples hard and jump in that water, man. Yeah. But I can't thank you enough, man. Like I said, out of the thousands and thousands of stories I've heard in the rooms, because whenever I think I'm having a bad day, one was a couple days ago, I'm like, I need a meeting. And I go and I listen to these unbelievable things that people are going through, and it gets me off my self-pity. Because there's always somebody going through something worse. But your story is still the most amazing to me.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Just because of where you came and what you went through and where you're at.
Like, and sometimes and not to be like whatever, but sometimes it amazes me because I'll like wake up some days and be like I have this like dream sometimes. Like I was telling you that like I wake up in like a jail cell.
You're in jail.
And I wake up and I'm like, hey, dude, I had this crazy dream. I was a UFC fighter. Like, my life was awesome. I was living in South Florida, surfing every day, going to the beach, snorkeling, fucking riding my bike around. Life was awesome. And they'd be like, yeah, kid, okay, kid, go back to bed, you know? Like,
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like that's what would have happened if fucking this whole story didn't happen. So, but I appreciate you saying that, man.
If I didn't fear your hands so much, I'd pinch you and I'd let you know this is real, man.
Yeah, no, I pinched myself plenty of times when I was walking out, before I walk out to the octagon. I'm like, when I look out, when I fought in Boston, I'd say the most amazing moment of my life was walking out in the Boston Garden where the Boston Celtics, the Boston Bruins play. Yeah, where I friggin' walk out you know, walking out knowing that those are like the nosebleeds I used to sit in when I would go to the game with, like, because I went to some hockey and Celtics games when I was a kid.
Probably with your brothers.
Sitting in nosebleeds with my brothers.
Yeah.
I wish I could be that. And then all of us, like my brothers being like, we wish we could be freaking Larry Bird, you know what I mean? Like
Larry Bird, that little dot down there.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, because we were never sitting front row. Like, I wasn't like, we weren't raised like we were like rich and had all this stuff. I mean, we had enough to get by, you know what I mean, as a kid, but occasionally get to go to nosebleed seats. And then from that moment, being able to walk out in the Boston Garden, like the place that, you know, the city that my brothers died in, you know what I mean, and like come back and overcome all that is the most special moment I ever had. And being able to, you know, get my hand raised both times in front of my whole family, friends, kids I went to high school for, getting teachers,
the whole world saw it.
It was on Fox. Like,
I mean,
amazing.
This is movie type of stuff, man. Yeah. Your life. And it's such an inspiring thing because you've built such a good life now that you're not willing to refund it for anything stupid.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happens to us in recovery. We build such a good life that we're not going to want to turn it in for something dumb.
And yeah, I mean, that's what I've learned is just like my life, all these good things keep happening as long as I do the right thing, and I'm confident in that, and I believe that, and that's what I tell people. I still talk to kids, call kids up, like occasionally, like some other fighters, like, hey man, my cousin's having a tough time. Can you maybe talk to him? And I'll be like, listen, man, the first thing I do is I just tell him to call me every day. And I would say 1 out of 50 kids, maybe not 1 out of 50, but like 1 out of 30 kids will be the one that calls me back every day. That does it. And that one is the one that gets better sometimes, you know. And I've been able to help a few kids. One of them actually just moved into my house. My roommate, my buddy Jose, like he was one of those kids that just kept calling back, and I kept, you know, helping him the much I could. I would take him to lunch, got him into jiu-jitsu. He actually just won his first. He's a blue belt world champion in jiu-jitsu. He just won he got him into jiu-jitsu, and the kid's doing amazing. He works at a treatment center, he helps people, and I don't take the credit for it, but I think it's the same thing.
You helped spark that, though.
Yeah, all you gotta do is be able to kind of give them a little push or a little motivation that they didn't have, and that could be the difference of making it or not making it, living or dying, you know. And that's when I go to the groups, like when I went to the treatment center with you and spoke to those kids, like, who knows, you know, what all those kids that might
made a huge impact.
But even if one of those kids, and the same thing my dad says when the reason he jumps in the ocean for the Chucky's fight, like, even if he can help one person, if he can save one life, it's all worth it. You know?
Oh, for sure.
That's it.
Well, let me tell you that's what you see, but the ripple effect of the things you've done is far beyond your vision, I think.
Yeah.
For example, I was the drunk kid that would go and watch UFCs and get obliterated, and then have to read online the next day who won the fights that I watched, because I never remembered. Now I'm clean and sober, and I have all these real UFC fighters in my life. So it's like God saying, you want to be that drunk kid in the bar that doesn't remember who won the fight?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be the non-drunk kid that actually has UFC fighters in his life? It's the ripple effect of what you do is huge, man. So continue to be you. Continue to inspire.
Thanks,
you're our favorite UFC fighter.
Thanks,
and
man.
I say everybody that's in my family knows you, and we follow you.
Thanks, man. It means a lot.
Including my fiance who worked at Dada. She said hi.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna miss you, man.
Yeah.
And I'm personally invested in watching you now.
Thanks.
You know, when you watch someone you care about fighting, it's a whole nother level of it.
Oh, for sure.
Like if somebody punches you in the face, I'm gonna be really pissed off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just don't jump in the cage and start any fights.
Well, that you don't have to worry about.
Right.
A wise man knows his limitations. I'm not wise, but I can't fight. But yeah, thank you, man, for everything. And Michael, you got anything else for?
I would just say what comes in, like the Chucky's fight thing, and what you do, like talking to the kids, and like what Chucky's fight does, talking to the kids. What comes into my mind is who's talking to the fucking parents.
Yeah, well, that's what my dad actually does. That's also what he does, is he talks to the
that's
parents.
what keeps the kids fucking out there and sick.
Yeah, Well, that's what my dad wants to do, actually. It's not what he does. He talks to the kids, he goes to the schools, but he's trying to educate the parents, because if you can teach a kid, this is his analogy he uses, if you can teach a kid not to touch a stove when it's, the consequence, you get burned.
Oh.
When he's a kid, he was a baby, it's the first thing you learn. You touch something hot, boom, you don't do it again, you just know.
Yeah.
Don't touch a stove.
Yeah.
And that's what the kids have to learn, and the parents are the ones that have to teach them, though. That's education, and that's what I think is the most important thing, and what you just brought up. I think the education for the parents, which is the ripple effect to the kids, and the whole thing is the most important thing. I think that's my solution for it, but I think there's a lot of things that have to go into it.
That's why they call it a family disease. Real quick, for those of you that want to do what I'm doing as far as following a hot, up-and-coming, amazing human being that's a human weapon named Charles Rosa, how can they follow you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Charles Rosa MMA, and then also on Instagram, Charles Rosa MMA. And then if you want to check out the Chucky's fight, it's chuckysfight.com, Chucky with a Y, fight.com. And you guys can see my dad jump in the water every day. If you're having you think you're waking up or you're feeling cold, just watch my dad jump in the water every morning, get your motivation. He gives a daily quote every day. So you can definitely check that out. And yeah, that's it, man. You can try to add me on Facebook, whatever. And if you guys ever have any questions or are struggling, feel free to reach out to me. I'm one of the few guys. I get a lot of messages, but I try to get back to it, look at the many as I can and help as many people as I possibly can. So, don't be shy. I'm definitely here to help. I was probably the one struggling. I was in your shoes at one point too. So that's it, man.
And what a message that was once a mess. Second Act Podcast for Justin Sims, Michael Stone, and the amazing Charles Rosa. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.